Welcome to one of my favorite lessons to teach every year. Last time we did something that was one of my favorite lessons to do. Some of my favorite problems just to have fun with. That's not the case here. These problems aren't necessarily what I'd call fun, but I will say that when taught by many other teachers, they can be ridiculously complicated. If you Google completing the square, I'm not going to do it here because of copyright issues, but just read through the first web page or two that you find. It's going to look like Egyptian hieroglyphics. It's so complicated. It's like a 12-step process. You got to write out every step. It gets nuts. I'm going to teach you a infinitely simpler way today that I've taught for the last 9 years. And if you're seeing this in the future, maybe the last 10 years or more. And it makes these so much easier. First, let me tell you about what completing the square is. We have been doing quadratic functions for this unit. We've had our form of, let me type this out here. So we've had our quadratic function in terms of vertex form. Say that. And then we've also had the same thing in factored form. One helps us find our x-intercepts, and the other one can help us find our vertex point, especially if it's written in true vertex form, which I guess for this technically would be like, yeah, I won't write it. Anyway, we've worked on converting them between the two different forms, but what's interesting is that lots of times you will get a situation like this blue graph up here, and you want to convert this to vertex form, not from factored form. And how in the heck do we do that? Reminder that vertex form looks something like this. It's like x plus 2. This is where we did so many of these graphs. So it's like x plus 2 squared, like minus 4 or something. And that taught us that our vertex was at the point -2, -4, which we can see that right there. It was the opposite of this and then down there. So completing the square to turn our vertex form, or to get the vertex form from our quadratic form. That's what we're going to do today. Okay. That was probably a very overcomplicated explanation. I apologize for that. Let's just dive in. Dive right in. Okay. We're going to start with the training wheels on, as we often do. It says, enter a simplified answer that correctly fills in the blank. Find the value of c that makes the expression a perfect square trinomial. X squared plus, and then you have some different number than me. So you have an x squared, you have an x, you have a c, but I guarantee you this number here is probably different. Here are going to be the steps to determine what this c is. So pull up your Desmos calculator. Now I want you to type in your number. There's only one number in your problem. Mine's 22. Then you're going to do the following two steps. You're going to hit divided. The divided by button is either right there. You can also do what I just did, though, and use the slash right next to the right shift key on your keyboard. You're going to divide it by 2. Okay, that's step 1, and it even perfectly has a little 1 there for step 1. Step 2 down here is you're going to take that number that you just got. Notice mine was 11, so I just copied 11, and you're going to square it. Okay, so divide it by 2 and square it. Whatever number you get is your c. This will eventually help us complete the square, but right now it's simply just training wheels for getting there. So once again, 2 steps. Take whatever your number is in the middle here, divide it by 2, and then whatever number you get for that, square it. So you can see the same thing I'm going to do for number 2. I'm just going to replace this number 22 up here. Now I've got -8. And then I take... Now watch how I do this. I'm going to use parentheses around my -4, because if I don't, I'm going to get -16, and that's going to be wrong. So when in doubt, definitely for negative numbers, but just in general, use parentheses on the second step, because we want +16. As always, if I'm going too fast, if you need to stare at this some more, just hit pause. Or rewind if you were sort of in your own little mental world and didn't hear anything that I just said. And now you're like, wait, you're on number 3? What happened number 2? Just go back. Go back 30 seconds or so. Okay, now I'm going to replace this -8. It's the same thing because we still have this C right here. I've got 0.6 that I'm going to divide by 2. And now I'm going to put 0.3 in the squared spot. 0.09. I don't even think I need that first 0. Sure enough, you don't. It's so smart. And then finally, I've got a fraction here. That's fine. I'm going to do 1/8 divided by 2. And then I'll type this in. Ooh, this is interesting. Okay. Normally in class, when we use our graphing calculators, we get this as a fraction. Oh gosh, I hope this works. 0.1239. Come on, if not, we're going to have to go to a fraction converter. And nope, it works. Okay, so just make sure you type in that whole disgusting decimal. Wow, that's a disgusting decimal. Okay. Too bad. If you have a way of converting that to a fraction, you could also use a fraction. Really glad that works. Okay, we've done 4 warm-up tricycle training wheels-esque problems. Now we have the 4 real ones. So I'm going to show you exactly what I mean here by completing the square. If I type in this quadratic function that is not in vertex form, there it is. And I want to know what this vertex point is down here. Down at the bottom. I want to know what this minimum is. Well, this does not help me at all. And instead, I'm going to convert it to vertex form to show it. So here is what we do. All right? I'm going to walk you through step by step. Step 1, take parentheses. Step 2, you're going to type in an x. And you are going to need to put in half of this middle number. So actually, let's do this over here. I'm going to go directly in this blank with my x. So I can use this over here. So I've got my middle number of -18. I'm going to divide that by 2. Just like I did before where I divided it by 2 and squared, we're going to do that. When you get this number that you divided by 2, immediately put it in parentheses. So I transfer this. -9. Then I need to hit squared. Now I can hit this button right here and then pull up my icons and use squared, but even easier than that, what I prefer, hit Shift 6, this little caret that we use, K-A-R-A-T, and a 2 for squared. Okay? When you do that, that's your clue to go down here and do that same step that we just did for 1 through 4, which is square in parentheses, whatever number we just got. Okay, remember that was our C. Our whole answer before would have just been 81. But now we don't have a C. Now instead we have positive 68. So to turn this into vertex form, we have to ask ourselves, how do I get from this number, 81, to this number, 68, by either adding or subtracting? In order to complete the square, I must literally type, how do I get from this number, 81, to this number, 68? Well, 81 is bigger than 68, so I know that I have to subtract. So I'm going to put a subtraction sign here. And then if I want to know what to subtract, I just do my 81 minus my 68. I can hear you guys out there confused because this is a lot of different steps. That is going to end up being your answer. And I will show you real quick what happens. So I've got my purple function up here. If I type in now my vertex form, notice it's going to be in green, of what I just got as my answer. See how it's close? Oh, how do I complete that square? Oh, I had to bring it down. How many did I bring it down by? 13. When I do, check it out. Here's my green graph. Here's my purple graph. Here's my green graph. Here's my purple graph. They're the same, you see? And my two favorite colors, purple and green. And the vertex is at the point 9. Remember, opposites in here, -13. 9, negative 13. All right, let's try another one. So I'm going to clear this, and I'm just going to type in, remember the steps here, parentheses x. Then I need to take my middle number. My middle number is now negative 4. So let's put that up top. Negative 4 divided by 2. Whatever I get here, negative 2, I type in parentheses immediately. Then I'll scroll up here, look at this for a reference. Then I need to put a little squared sign, so shift 6 and a 2. When I do that, I can square my negative 2, whatever number you get here, you put in there, you get this 4. Now normally that would be our C, but we have to ask, how do I get from 4 to 29? From 4 to 29, now I'm adding. How much do I add? Well, that's my last step. Is this 4? 29 minus 4, 25. There it is. Okay. Still confused? Let's do another one. All right. So, once again, parentheses, x. Half of 22 in the middle now is positive 11. So I put plus 11. Then parentheses, shift 6, and a 2. I square 11. Sounds like a Stranger Things reference. 121. How do I get from 121 to 116? Remember, it's always this calculator number to this number. Don't go backwards. That's the most common mistake. If you miss it, it's probably because you went backwards. Always go from calculator to computer number. Well, that's 5 smaller to go from 121 to 116, so I do minus 5. And to prove again what's happening here, I'm going to type it out for you. F of x equals x squared. Whoop, forgot the rest of it. Plus 22x plus 116. And separately, I've got my f of x equals x plus 11 squared. And here we go. Minus 5. And now they match up perfectly. And the vertex will be negative 11, negative 5. Nice and easy. So helpful. All right, the last one, check it out. I am going to, I can do the same step, divide by 2, square, blah, blah. Or, watch this. I am going to type in my equation here. I can see my vertex point is negative 12, 11. Well, I know what that means. That means I got to do the opposite of the x squared. And then if it's positive 11 is the y, I just put plus 11. Bam. So if you know vertex form well enough, you could actually be a little tricky and go from the graph, see the vertex, and go backwards and put it in vertex form. So you know now 2 different ways of converting from your standard quadratic form into vertex form. You could use completing the square, and you can look at the vertex point on your graph and then go backwards to write it in vertex form. That's a lot of words. A lot of explanation. It's one of the most complicated assignments we'll do. If you want to see how truly complicated it gets, I promise, just Google it. You'll be like, what is, what? Instead, we simplified it to just a few steps each time. Saw the power in it. What an explanation. Hopefully it made sense. All right. Wishing you the best from afar. This has been your teacher Dylan with some virtual math for you. Whether you're completing the square, completing the circle, completing your day with the right meal. I hope you have a great one. Take care. Much love. Bye-bye.